She was everywhere. Billboards, streaming charts, luxury campaigns, paparazzi-laced red carpets. Everywhere the lens turned, she was there. The former Disney darling turned global icon, a success story written in glittering lights and platinum records. But the spotlight is a paradox. It doesn't just reveal you. It consumes you. And Selena Gomez was running out of light. Because behind the curated feeds and glowing skin, something was unraveling. No one noticed the shaking hands. No one questioned the absence in her eyes. She was a product, and the world was buying. Until one day, she vanished. No dramatic press release. No scandal. Just silence. Weeks passed. Then months. Whispers filled the void. Rehab? Burnout? Breakdown? The headlines speculated. But none of them knew the truth. The truth was darker, and far more common than most dared to admit. Panic, depression, an immune system attacking itself, and a mind on the edge of collapse. She was fighting a war. But it wasn't trending. It was lonely. It was silent. It was expensive in ways money couldn't touch. While brands chased her image, she was losing herself inside it. Until she broke the silence. Not with another chart-topping single or carefully packaged comeback, but with something raw, something real, something no PR team could polish. Honesty. She spoke about her bipolar diagnosis, about the pressure, the numbness, the unbearable weight of always being okay. And then, she did something radical. She made her pain profitable. She created Rare Beauty, not to sell foundation, but to rewrite the foundation. No promise of flawlessness. No, you're not enough marketing. Just makeup that let people feel seen, not scrutinized. She didn't launch a brand. She launched a belief system. Because when you've been broken by perfection, you don't chase it. You reject it. And here's where it turns genius. She pledged 1% of all sales, not profits, to support mental health initiatives. Not as charity. As principle. As proof that this wasn't just commerce. It was cause. Investors balked at first. A fixed percentage off the top? Before margins? Before salaries? It didn't matter. Selena wasn't building a product. She was building trust. And in a world where every brand screams louder to be heard, trust whispers. But it moves. Mountains. Rare Beauty exploded. Not because it was trendy. Because it was true. Because while others sold contour, Selena sold clarity. She didn't try to be the next Rihanna. She didn't try to dominate the beauty space. She carved her own lane, one paved in purpose, driven by values, and fueled by a connection most brands could never buy. And in doing so, she proved something vital. That in the age of overexposure, restraint is power. That in the economy of image, authenticity converts. And that pain, when owned, doesn't just heal. It scales. She didn't recover in silence so she could return to fame. She transformed in private so she could lead in public. And when she came back, she didn't sell a product. She sold a mirror. One that said, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real. So how do you monetize vulnerability? How do you build an empire with nothing but truth? How do you turn breakdowns into brand equity? Selena Gomez didn't ask those questions. She answered them. And the answer isn't in the label. It's in the legacy. Before the blush. Before the sleek packaging and Instagram-perfect flat lays. Before Rare Beauty ever sold a single product. Selena Gomez was already a brand. A brand other companies owned. She had done it all, signed endorsement deals, starred in commercials, slapped her name on perfume bottles and fashion lines. Millions moved. Products flew off shelves. Selena's face meant instant sales. But she didn't own any of it. They used her image, paid her well, then moved on. She was the face, never the force. And that's the first illusion. That celebrity equals control. That fame translates into power. It doesn't. It often just means you're the packaging. She knew this. And she was done being packaging. Because endorsements don't build equity. They build someone else's business. And Selena wanted her own. So she cut the cord. Walked away from multi-million-dollar licensing deals. Refused easy checks in favor of something far riskier. Self-ownership. No more lending her name. Now, she was betting her name. And that's a different game entirely. It wasn't just a brand launch. It was a power pivot. And the timing? Perfect. The beauty industry was bloated. Oversaturated. Drenched in sameness. Every brand shouted louder. Promised longer lashes, smoother pores, fuller lips. But none of them spoke about why we wear makeup in the first place. To cover pain. To armor insecurity. to try desperately to feel enough. Selena saw that. Because she lived that. Makeup had been her mask for years. And now, it would be her microphone. She didn't create rare beauty to hide flaws. She created it to expose the lie behind. Perfection. No filters. No airbrushing. No campaigns designed to make you feel less than. Just products designed for real skin. Real texture. Real people. And then she did what no boardroom consultant would have advised. She built mental health into the business model. Not a campaign. A commitment. 1% of all sales, straight into the Rare Impact Fund, her own nonprofit, funding, therapy access, educational tools, and mental health resources around the globe. It wasn't a gimmick. It was the cornerstone. The mission wasn't tacked on after. It was the brand. And the risk? Huge. Mental health is messy, personal, politicized, dangerous territory for consumer brands. But she leaned into it. Because when your own mind has nearly taken you down, you stop playing it safe. Investors were cautious. Advisors raised eyebrows. Stick to makeup, some said. But Selena had lived through something they hadn't. She wasn't building for market trend. She was building for meaning. And that meaning gave her something no amount of marketing could buy. Loyalty. Not fans. Not followers. Believers. Rare beauty didn't just grow. It resonated. With Gen Z. With millennials. With anyone tired of being told they're not enough. The result? A financial powerhouse with emotional gravity. A brand that wasn't just consumed, it was lived. And for Selena, the payoff was more than money. It was ownership. Of her brand. Of her narrative. Of herself. Because when the world profits off your insecurities, owning your story is the most radical act of all. Perfection used to be the product. Flawless finishes. Filtered ads. Airbrushed everything. The beauty industry didn't just sell foundation, it sold fiction. And for a long time, Selena Gomez played along. She wore the highlighter, the falsies, the persona. She sold the fantasy until it nearly destroyed her. But when she came back, she brought something rare, truth. Not as apology, not as confession, but as strategy. Rare beauty wasn't born to compete with brands. It was born to dismantle them. Selena didn't just launch another makeup line. She launched a rebellion. A direct strike at the industry's oldest lie, that beauty has a single, perfect shape. She called it out. Not with press releases, but with product. With foundations that came in 48 shades, not to earn diversity points, but because she understood what exclusion feels like. With ads that featured acne, scars, and skin that actually looked like skin. With social campaigns where fans shared stories, not selfies. And in doing that, she didn't just disrupt the space. She rewrote the script. Because the market wasn't saturated with brands. It was saturated with mistrust. People were tired. Tired of being marketed to like insecurities were a business opportunity. Tired of aspirational tones and impossible standards. Tired of being told to fix things that weren't broken. Selena gave them something else. Not a solution, a sanctuary. And the genius was this. She didn't position rare beauty against the industry. She positioned it above it. Where other brands pushed product, she pushed purpose. Where others chased trends, she stood still and let the truth speak louder. She didn't shout natural beauty. She whispered, you already have it. And whispers, real ones, carry farther than screams. Financially, it was a risk. You don't dominate shelf space by telling people they don't need to buy things. But Selena wasn't playing by retail rules. She was creating a relationship economy. In this economy, authenticity is leverage. Transparency is marketing. And mental health isn't a liability. It's the hook. She showed up without makeup. She cried on live streams. She said, I'm not okay. And the world didn't flinch. It leaned in. Because when the perfect ones break the silence, the rest of us feel seen. And when we feel seen, we buy. But this wasn't exploitation. It was alignment. Selena aligned her brand with something too many founders ignore. Her actual values. And in doing so, she unlocked something most executives never will, emotional equity. You can't quantify it on a spreadsheet, but it shows up in sales. It shows up in retention, loyalty, and trust. It shows up when a brand stops being a product and becomes a movement. Rare beauty is more than makeup. It's a mirror held up to an industry and a generation. One that says, your story is your strength. Your flaws are your power. Your mental health isn't something to hide. It's something to build on. Most brands explode with noise. Viral launches. Celebrity cameos. Flashy campaigns engineered to dominate feeds for 48 hours before fading into digital dust. Rare Beauty didn't explode. It expanded, with precision, quietly, confidently, and faster than anyone expected. Because while other founders chased clout, Selena Gomez built infrastructure. She didn't just launch product. She built a system. One that could outlast trends, outmaneuver giants, and scale without losing its soul. The timing? Impeccable. In 2020, as the world retreated indoors and the beauty industry braced for collapse, Selena leaned in. Rare Beauty launched during a global pandemic. No celebrity parties. No in-store events. No crowds to celebrate her big moment. But that wasn't the plan anyway. The plan was to meet people where they were physically, emotionally, psychologically. And in 2020, people were broken, isolated, tired of pretending. So she gave them something radical, gentleness. A brand that didn't tell them to transform. A voice that didn't scream at them to buy. Just presence. While competitors froze, Rare Beauty activated. Direct to consumer. Community focused. Online first. Built for a digital generation that craved connection more than contour. And Selena didn't stop at branding. She surrounded herself with seasoned operators, real executives who understood scale. Former leaders from NYX, ColourPop, and Estee Lauder sat at her table. Not just advisors. Architects. Because Selena Gomez wasn't here to play celebrity founder. She was here to own the business. To know the numbers. The margins. The manufacturing lead times. To make decisions like a CEO, not a spokesperson. And she made one of the smartest early moves a beauty brand can make. She secured Sephora. Day one, Rare Beauty landed in 1,100 Sephora stores across the US, Canada, and Mexico. That kind of shelf space is unheard of for a new brand, especially one launched during a global crisis. But Selena had leverage. Not just her name, her message. She offered Sephora something no other celebrity brand could. A fully formed identity. A purpose that aligned with the retailer's values. A product that didn't cannibalize what was already on shelves. It wasn't about just being sold. It was about belonging. Rare Beauty didn't feel like another cash grab. It felt inevitable. And in an industry where shelf placement is power, Selena didn't beg for space. She earned it. Not with hype. With integrity. Because Rare Beauty wasn't a trend. It was the response to one. Every new shade, every limited release, every campaign pulsed with intention. No overproduction. No desperate sellouts. No chasing virality. She scaled with discipline, the hardest kind of scale there is. And she did it without losing the original promise. 1% to mental health, no matter the revenue. By year two, Rare Beauty was on track to surpass $100 million in annual sales. Not because it was the loudest, because it was the most trusted. And trust, in this economy, is the ultimate compounding asset. It doesn't just sell once. It sells again, and again, and again. Selena Gomez didn't shout her way to success. She whispered, and the world leaned in. Because in a market obsessed with velocity, she chose something else. Stability. And that's the real rarity. Success changes things. It changes your mornings, your circle, your sleep, your silence. But there's one thing it never changes, your mind. Rare Beauty was thriving. The shelves were stocked. The reviews were glowing. The numbers, staggering. She had done it. Built a brand not from image, but from intention. And still, something was breaking. Not the business. Her. Because here's the hidden truth no spreadsheet reveals. Mission-driven brands don't just demand strategy. They demand your soul. When your product is your pain, every launch becomes a trigger. Every press tour, a balancing act between performance and collapse. Every success, a reminder of the cost it took to get there. Selena was no longer just a founder. She was a symbol of vulnerability, of strength, of speaking out when everything in you wants to shut down. And the world, once again, expected her to carry that weight perfectly. Smile for the camera. Be the mental health advocate. Say something inspiring, even on the days you can't get out of bed. It's a beautiful trap. And she was deep in it. Behind the brand's glow, her lupus flared again. Anxiety surged. Depression returned in waves. She admitted it, publicly. I have to stop, she said. I'm not okay. She stepped away from social media, from touring, from interviews. And it wasn't a breakdown. It was a boundary. But boundaries don't sell headlines. So the speculation came roaring back. Was the brand in trouble? Was Selena backing out? The internet whispered doubts. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. She wasn't collapsing. She was evolving. Because here's what no one tells you about building something with meaning. The mission has to include you. And for Selena, that meant protecting herself just as fiercely as she protected her vision. She didn't walk away from Rare Beauty. She walked deeper into it. Into its systems. Its culture. Its future. She reinforced her leadership team. Not with celebrities. With operators who could carry the weight when she couldn't. She let go of the illusion that she had to be everywhere, all the time, for the brand to thrive. And it did. Rare Beauty didn't flinch. It matured. Because its foundation wasn't fame. It was philosophy. And that philosophy wasn't just in the marketing. It was in the meetings. The supply chain. The hiring process. Every employee was trained on mental health literacy. Every product was evaluated not just for performance, but for emotional impact. The mission wasn't an accessory. It was infrastructure. Selena wasn't just building a brand. She was building a world. A world where beauty didn't ask you to be someone else. It let you return to yourself. And that world didn't collapse when she stepped back. It held her. That's the power of true alignment. When the thing you build takes care of you, too. Most entrepreneurs don't get that far. They burn out, sell out, or break down. Selena paused. And in that pause, the business grew stronger. Because her absence wasn't emptiness. It was evidence that Rare Beauty could outlive her spotlight. That it was no longer dependent on the founder. It was dependent on the foundation. And that foundation was never perfection. It was honesty. Most brands live and die on product. On pigment, packaging, price points. They rise fast, burn bright, and vanish without a trace, another name lost in a sea of trend. Cycles and influencer codes. Rare Beauty didn't vanish. It echoed. What Selena Gomez created didn't just sell out. It sold through the noise, through the skepticism, through the barrier that separates product from purpose. And then, something strange began to happen. Other brands shifted. Not their packaging, not their formulas, their tone, the way they spoke to customers, the words they used, the silence they left. The market began to soften. Beauty giants, once allergic to vulnerability, suddenly launched real beauty campaigns. New brands emerged with taglines about self-love, inclusivity, mental well-being. They mimicked her voice, quoted her mission, echoed her messaging. The industry pivoted, not because it wanted to, because it had to. Because Selena didn't just launch Rare Beauty. She launched a new category, emotional commerce. Products anchored in feeling. Loyalty built on lived experience. A brand not just with customers, but with witnesses. People who saw themselves in the narrative. Who didn't just want to buy mascara, they wanted to belong. And belonging is not a commodity. It's a contract. Selena honored that contract in every part of the business. The Rare Impact Fund wasn't a marketing vehicle. It was a movement. By year 3, the fund had already committed millions to grassroots organizations offering mental health services to underserved communities, not just in the U.S., but globally. And then came the partnerships. Schools, clinics, research groups. Rare Beauty wasn't just disrupting retail. It was bending policy, creating mental health curricula in schools, funding resources in communities where therapy was a foreign word, normalizing language that once lived only in the shadows, depression, anxiety, trauma, and giving them a seat at the table in corporate boardrooms and teen bedrooms alike. It was seismic, and it was intentional, because Selena didn't want to just change the conversation. She wanted to change the conditions, and she was doing it, quietly, systemically, without ever claiming the spotlight. Meanwhile, her competitors scrambled, because here's the real twist. Selena wasn't competing on product. She was competing on principle. Rare Beauty didn't win by shouting louder. It won by listening more. By designing not just for the customer, but with them. Product launches were shaped by community input, surveys, stories, late-night DMs, and unfiltered feedback. The Rare Beauty team was trained not just to respond, but to receive. This wasn't innovation for the sake of headlines. It was intimacy at scale. And that intimacy made Rare Beauty almost unbeatable. You can copy a product. You can't copy trust. You can clone packaging. You can't clone emotional safety. And as competitors chased virality, Rare Beauty built value. Selena didn't obsess over what was trending. She built something that transcended the trend. She didn't need to go viral. She had already gone visceral. Because when people feel seen, they don't just buy once. They stay. They evangelize. They defend. They carry your story as if it were their own. And that's the true flywheel, not a marketing funnel, but an emotional one. Every drop of honesty she poured into the brand came back tenfold. In DMs from fans who said Rare Beauty gave them the courage to leave the house. In videos of teens using concealer not to hide, but to express. In classrooms now teaching students how to speak their emotional truth, funded by a makeup line that never claimed to fix you, only to honor you. This wasn't beauty as aspiration. It was beauty as affirmation. And the world took notice. In 2024, Rare Beauty was named one of the most innovative companies in the world, not by beauty rankings, but by business ones. And yet, Selena said almost nothing. She didn't need to, because her brand was already speaking and thousands of lives touched, minds opened, and norms rewritten. She didn't just shift the industry. She expanded it, redefined its possibilities, proved that you can build something massive without compromising meaning, that you can lead without dominating, and that the most powerful position in any market is not to follow the rules, but to rewrite them. You can't see it on a spreadsheet. You won't find it in earnings reports or market share slides. It doesn't scream from a press release or trend in the stock tickers. But it's real. And it's the most valuable asset Selena Gomez ever built. Trust. Not the kind that vanishes in a quarterly dip. Not the kind you manufacture in boardrooms and campaign brainstorms. The kind you earn, one truth at a time. Because in the end, Selena Gomez didn't just disrupt the beauty industry. She did something far rarer. She humanized it. In a world of billion-dollar valuations and exit strategies, she asked a different question. What does it mean to build something that heals while it grows? Rare Beauty is not just a brand. It's a declaration that you don't need to be perfect to be powerful, that you can lead with empathy and still win the market, that the things we hide, our flaws, our fears, our fragility, aren't liabilities. They're leverage. She didn't get there through perfection. She got there through pain, through nights alone in hospital rooms, through days when her own mind betrayed her, through moments when walking away from the spotlight wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. And somehow, she turned all of that into equity. Not just financial, emotional, cultural, human. She didn't just build a company. She built a conversation, one that outlives launch cycles and marketing trends. And if there's one truth Rare Beauty proved, it's this. The strongest brand story isn't the one you invent. It's the one you survive. Selena didn't brand vulnerability. She embodied it. And that made her unstoppable. Not because she chased dominance, but because she created resonance. Not because she shouted, but because she allowed others to speak. She didn't create Rare Beauty to be the next big thing. She created it so none of us would have to suffer in silence again. And that mission? That's wealth. That's what legacy looks like. So yes, she built a brand that's now worth hundreds of millions. Yes, she turned emotional transparency into an empire. But the real victory? She made honesty profitable. And in an industry built on illusion, that may be the most radical wealth of all. Subscribe to Money and Fame. Which celebrity's financial story should we tell next? Write it in the comments. Thank you, and see you soon.